God calls the church to go and make disciples. But did you know that less than 2% of people in Germany attend a Bible-believing church? But God is at work. This is the story of how he brought a group of people from all over the world to establish a ministry that helps local churches plant healthy new churches. This is the story of the Aquila Initiative. Aquila really started with the four of us, Nick, Zach, Max, and me, gathering to talk and dream about working together and to serve the existing local churches in Europe.
So some of the initial needs that we recognized early on with the Aquila Initiative was just some digital support. We had churches in our context here that had websites that looked like they were from the 90s, and this was in 2014. But from there, also moving on into other aspects of helping with local representation visually and communication to their context.
We had seen God do great things to restore and revitalize IBC Cologne. And after everything we'd experienced, we wanted him to use us to help other churches become strong and healthy churches, because healthy churches make disciples.
Another need that we recognized very quickly was the state of things in Germany. It was not only postmodern, post-Christian society, but growing into what we're seeing even more enhanced now of almost like an animosity towards Christianity, towards the church itself. And we're not only looking at the church as irrelevant, but aggressively opposed to the church.
Like we first had this idea of being kind of a resource for churches. We realized we were onto something, but we didn't know what.
Yeah.
But later on, we realized it took a while before we got onto that, but it was a starting point.
But the job was really too great for a couple people. The Lord needed to raise up the team. And that's where it began. We just simply began to pray. So the four of us were we're dreaming about how to help local churches. And the Lord began to open our eyes to the need and necessity of church planting. We dreamed together of what it would look like to see a multiplication of churches throughout Germany and really the rest of Europe.
The idea that Aquila Initiative would partner with other churches to plant other churches in regions where there are not many Christians was exciting. And the fact that we would do it through BIMS, business and missions, to have an active presence in these communities was fantastic.
And it was also made clear to the Aquila team that our focus really needed to be on helping churches plant churches. We want like-minded churches working with us, but in that church, there are like-minded entrepreneurs and business men and women who also desire to see churches planted. They can come alongside and apprentice people. So really knowing one's margins is incredibly important, especially when you're church planting. And not only did I know that I could not sustain being the pastor of IBC Cologne and the pastor of IBC Bonn, but there was also this question that we knew that as Aquila, if we're going to get off the ground, we really needed someone who was going to be the academic director.
Right. So at this stage, we had a lot more clarity on developing an institute for apprenticeship.
It was just by God's grace that we had gotten to know Stephen.
He had still has a desire to maintain that overlap between the pastorate and the academics, which made him a wonderfully ideal candidate, together with his approach to education, which was competency-based thing.
So Stephen kept in contact with David. Eventually, I told him, "Stop calling! He's going to offer you a job, and we don't want to go to Germany." And then, as you could have guessed, he did offer a job.
I remember after Stephen came, we were sitting around our dining room table. You guys remember we had that big piece of paper out, and we were talking about how do you reverse engineer. We begin with what it is we want. What is a biblical church planter look like? What's their ability, their competence, their character? And then begin to work backwards and say, what do we need to offer in order to ensure that they best get that? So we came up with those. I think it ended up being 52 competencies.
Aquila Theological Institute officially launched the apprenticeship program in November of 2020. This was the culmination of a 3-year-long effort to build an apprenticeship program from the ground up.
It was definitely an exciting day for us because it meant that this thing was really happening. We were really going to help churches plant new churches.
ATI's model of apprenticeship is unique in that it is competency-based. We want apprentices to be trained in business as well. The overlap with competency training and the business and mission concept is that apprentices can learn how to start and run a business so that they can later sustain themselves and at the same time be a presence in their community.
For the work to continue here in Germany and throughout Europe, we need your help. Please pray about how you could get involved in this ministry and how you could give to the Aquila Initiative. We're trusting the Lord for 85,000 euros in order to see this year out, and more for the next year, so that we can cover the costs involved in training leaders and expanding our network to engage more churches in multiplying. Please consider giving. On our website, you can find it at www.aquila-initiative.org.